This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
Okay, you gotta do it. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
Remember what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're gonna feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Greetings one and all, Lembit Öpik here on Lembit Öpik Live on Unprecedented TV. Welcome to the show where we try to give you the facts and our opinions, but now the two shall meet so that you know when I'm giving you my point of view, and I trust you to be smart enough to work out your own. Do please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you to all of you who have done so. We're really wanting to put a couple of noughts on the number of subscribers. And the more that you subscribe, it doesn't cost you anything, the more we can do on the shows. And we have a fantastic lineup. And indeed, my guest today is one of our co-presenters, Marilyn Hawes. I'll be talking about her in just a minute. What's the subject matter then? Well, toxic masculinity. It's a phrase that we hear a lot, especially in Parliament, from politicians who think they've got it all sorted out. They want to stop violence against women and girls. And they're fighting the good fight to stop domestic abuse. There's one small problem with that. A very large proportion of domestic abuse is against men and boys. So why aren't they talking about those as well? Why is it always about women and girls? Somewhere between a quarter and a third of all domestic abuse goes from female to male. You may not think that from the reportage, the coverage, and the relentless commentary about this in the mainstream media, and also in series like Adolescence, which goes on about toxic masculinity, whatever that is, and we'll talk about the definition in a moment. I put it to you that this is discrimination against men. Worst of all, it's discrimination against victims of domestic abuse. It makes me rage when I watch the mainstream going along with ministers like Jess Phillips, who apparently is responsible for stopping violence against women and girls, and they never or almost never seem to question the fact that men and boys are victims too. Why? Maybe it's because the narrative doesn't work. How can you be toxically masculine if you're also a victim of abuse? Lots of problems there. I put it to you that the reality here is that we should be stopping abuse, not abuse against women and girls, not abuse against men and boys for that matter, just abuse. Because if you're a victim, it doesn't matter what your gender is, it's wrecking your life and probably the lives of those around you, especially if there are children involved. And it makes me angry. Luckily, we have somebody who isn't just a friend of Unprecedented, but one of our co-presenters. It's Marilyn Hawes. Marilyn, good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Lovely to see you.
Well, I had the idea of having you on because we relentlessly see this monologue about women and girls, and even if people are watching this from the archive instead of live, they're probably hearing the mainstream colluding with politicians to imply that abuse is something that's done to females. Now, I know that makes you pretty angry.
It does make me angry because it's actually discrimination, and discrimination in this country is supposed to be against the law. It's a kind of hate speech, really, isn't it? I mean, people are completely missing the fact they go about misogyny, they don't understand misandry, and I don't very much if Jess Phillips or Keir Starmer understand it either. The hatred, I don't know, where is this hatred thing come from? You know, it's bad behavior, it's lack of respect for the opposite sex, the same sex, whatever.
Yeah.
It drives me mad. You go into schools and they all go on and bang on about consent. Nobody talks about respect for just yourself, for the people around you. It drives me mad. And this thing about misogyny, you know, there are boys that are badly behaved. There are girls that are badly behaved. They also have bad role models And I've been in schools where I've heard hideous things come out of girls' mouths, and they pulled them up for it. And I said, this is unacceptable. Same for the boys to the girls, blah, blah, blah. I go to senior management and they go, oh, well, that's what it's like here. I tell you, you know what? I've said it before to you, Lembit. A fish rots from the head down. If a head teacher isn't on top of this, then it goes through the whole school. And too many people in schools these days are woke. Teachers have always been woke, but they're more woke than ever. And it drives me insane because none of them are teaching respect. And
a couple of definitions there before you go further. Define misogyny and define misandry.
It's all about hate. I really don't like the word. Well, I mean, it is a hatred, misogyny, a hatred of women and girls, right? Where the boys or men think they're better. Misandry is a hatred of boys and men because the girls think they're better. And this drives me insane because none of this is necessary. I don't understand this thing about the battle of the sexes. Do you know what? I honestly think all this comes from women's lib, going back years where women thought, oh, look at us do this, look at us do that. Oh, yeah, look, we can be a man. Well, why do you want to be? Why can't you just be feminine and bring the best out in a man who wants to protect you, look after you? I'm not talking about control. That's completely different. I'm talking about a man who, all that stuff. I like all that sort of like a man that smells nice. I like to smell nice. I like to look like a lady. I like men that do gentlemanly things that, you know, what's wrong with that? It's really nice. And in return, the man gets something off the back of that. And it's all being destroyed by women's lib. Honestly, I do truly blame the women. And I don't care if women don't like it. It's true. When women's lib came on the table, I feel sorry for men and boys. They're lost because they don't know what their role is because women have destroyed it. By not wanting to be female and not wanting to enjoy those things that a man can bring that makes you feel extremely special.
Well, I want to talk about, just before we go further again, I do have to say that you won a great victory because I wasn't sure if fish do rot from the head down, but it turned out that you were correct. You're absolutely right. And on another show, and if you're looking through the archive, you'll find it. We got this. If we found a fishing bait company. What would you believe it's called? Starmer Baits. Starmer Baits. Giving you the edge. Established 1976. Fish rots on the head down, Marilyn.
There you go. There you go. You owe me a drink because you said, where did you get that from? It's true. It's so true.
I think we're probably going to use that particular visual often. And by the way, Starmer Baits, please, please sponsor the show. We'll give you loads of coverage. It's just great. So therefore, you're right about that. Anyway, just in terms of the whole situation, it does seem to me that there's a massive hate campaign against masculinity. Caution, toxic masculinity. This phrase, which is alliterative, rolls off the tongue, sounds like it means something.
Terrible.
Toxic masculinity. You hear it in government, you hear it on television, you hear it in the mainstream media, you hear people talking about it. And you used an interesting word, the emasculation of men. In other words, the making of men to feel impotent in some way, to be not masculine in a sense. And this whole toxic masculinity thing seems to be all about that. What does the phrase mean?
Well, it means men who are aggressive to women, who are violent towards women, who are controlling with women, who are gaslighting women, who are coercively controlling women, who are basically domestic abusers. And of course those men exist, but so do the women. There's plenty of men. I am so looking forward to my show on Friday when I've got Mark Brooks on, who is the chairman of Mankind, the only charity in the country that supports men who are being domestically abused. And they are, and I think they are in equal proportion to women who are. And don't tell me, I get really annoyed when women go, oh, you know, men are more violent. I have seen horrendous injuries done by women to men, by really diminutive women who look so cute and sweet that you wouldn't think they could throw a pat of butter, but they do, and they are unbelievable. I mean, I was talking to a barrister 2 or 3 years ago, and he showed me this photograph of this gorgeous girl who was about 5'2", long blonde hair, looked absolutely lovely. I went, what's she in court for? Is it where she's just pushed her boyfriend through a plate glass window and he's been in intensive care for the last 2 or 3 weeks? I went, you must be joking. But when that red mist comes down, when that rage comes down, then it's the same. I actually spoke to Julian King, who is he's a paralegal. He was on my show last week. And he is
well, by the way, Marilyn, you keep mentioning times. You must remember that there's a big archive. So when Marilyn says Friday or last week, that's only if you're watching it live.
Sorry, yeah,
if you're not, no, it's okay. I just want to make it clear. You'll find all of this in the archive, but the timings are only relevant if you're watching the first broadcast. But carry on. Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. You're right. Sorry, I do beg your pardon.
No, it's all right.
But Julian
it's fine. It's enthusiasm, and I like that.
He runs this organization called Family Law Support Services. And I actually asked him on my program, do women abuse men differently to how men abuse women in a domestic or a toxic situation? And he said, no. And I said, that's how I think. But I said, I just wondered if women are less violent, women are, sorry, ladies, but women are manipulative, and they are very clever in court, in a family court, of blaming a man and saying, oh, you know what? Oh, sorry, Your Honor, but I think he's abusing my child. And they win almost hands down. And it's dreadful. Women are just as violent as men are, and even more manipulative. And I am sorry and Julian King said to me, there is literally no difference between what women can do to men and men to women. And it's just outrageous. This is discrimination. It is a form of hate against men. I feel so sorry. I've got little boy grandchildren, and I worry for them. They're little sweethearts. And I think, why should they grow up having to go on a misogyny course? What? And I have to say this, and I'm sorry if we are a free speech program. If our white boys are going to be put on a misogyny course, I mean, I don't understand what that's all about, because that sort of behavior of aggression towards girls in school and girls onto boys, it's there in their face. It's always been there. Why isn't the senior management in the school dealing with it? So, but are the Muslim boys going to be going on these courses as well? Because their culture is rife with misogyny. They are the patriarchal culture, if you want to call it a culture, where they are actually openly and acceptance of abuse towards women. So are the Muslims?
Yeah, hang on a sec, but that's not exactly the foundation of those cultures.
No,
most men in those circumstances, most men, I don't know, I could be wrong, but they don't abuse women. Most people don't abuse each other, even though there are probably millions of victims in the UK, certainly hundreds of thousands. You can't just say that an entire culture de facto endorses abuse from men to women.
Well, did you not see the news this week where certain imams in this country are saying it's okay for you to physically punish women?
No, I haven't seen that.
It was in the news this week in the UK. No, we are not allowed. We do not accept physical abuse of any nature. But and it is there. It's there. It was in the news this week, and it's outrageous. But it's not about even gender or culture. Abuse is wrong.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I don't really like going down that path, because to me, saying that is a little bit like saying abuse against women and girls. I don't differentiate. If a Muslim man is abusing his Christian wife, or if a Catholic woman is abusing her Protestant husband. That doesn't matter to me. I want to get the ethnicity, the gender, even the sexual orientation out of it. I want abusers to stop abusing the abused, regardless. But the problem I've got now is the whole of the culture of our political system and our mainstream media implies that the abuse is always women being abused by men.
No, it all goes back down to a previous show that I did. It goes back down to early years experience of adverse childhood experiences where there is trauma in a child's life that manifests itself in school, in a nursery school, of what a lot of people go bad behavior when they don't ask why is that child behaving like that, what is going on, you know, what and then that goes on into primary school, into secondary school, and nobody is born to be an abuser. No one is born to abuse. And people like to say, oh, you know, it's in your DNA. No, it isn't. It's to do with trauma in the early years that broke neural pathways, that distorted the landscape of the brain. It comes out into behaviors, and we need to be better parents. But aside of that, there is no room for saying all this stuff about men being I feel so sorry for men and boys, because they're not allowed to be men anymore. They're frightened of being frightened of masculinity because they might be knocked back for it, and it's so wrong.
The team had a quick look, and we can't find the references you're saying about the Iman. It'd be interesting to do a show on that at some point in the future. But
it's there.
Okay, we can't find it in time available, but we've found plenty of Muslim men who said it's not acceptable.
But even
so, once again, I don't. But for me, the thing, Marilyn, is my issue is that I don't want to categorize abusers as all white men. That's my point. No. I want to categorize abusers as people not having a gender and ethnicity, but a mindset. Whatever the mindset comes from, wherever it comes from, it's the fact that those people are willing to abuse somebody else, and all we hear about, pretty much in politics is an end to violence against women and girls. That's what we hear.
It's absolutely dreadful. It should be an end to violence and abuse against human beings. I mean, but also it starts with, I mean, if you're looking for clues in the early years, if you look at people who abuse, they are controlling, they know how to target the vulnerable, even at a very young age. And they do begin, and I've been into lots of schools, in primary schools, where it starts off with an abuse of animals and insects, because it's all about control. That absolutely links into any form of abuse. But whatever, we have to be, it goes back to the early years, it goes back to parenting. If we want to absolutely try to diminish any form of abuse, we have to be better parents.
Okay, hold that thought, because we need to go to a quick break. And after the break, I want to talk about what I think is a very disturbing decision by some award ceremony to fate a program which seems to reinforce the concept that it's boys that are the problem. In the meantime, just let's remember, we've got another great show. It's Tim Scott Uncancelled, and he reviews the stories that you may not have seen in the media. Tim Scott Uncancelled. Scott Uncancelled, fantastic presenter, great insights, and a true advocate of free speech. He is the supremo at the Freedom Association. There's a clue in the name. Somebody else is free thinking and free speaking. It's Marilyn Hawes, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Freedom from Abuse. So you're doing a lot about this subject. What does your Freedom from Abuse organization do, by the way, Marilyn?
Well, we're trying to prevent abuse by highlighting it to schools, parents, teachers, anyone that will listen to us about how you recognize somebody who is abusive in the first place, whether they're 3 years old, 5 years old, whatever. How do those different behaviors manifest themselves at certain stages where they may have been missed? People are not inquisitive. See, my thing is, a child behaves in a certain way. I've never gone, oh, well, naughty boy or naughty girl. I think, well, why? Why are they behaving like that? What is it that's happening here? And so much of it goes back to parenting. So, as I say, no one is born to abuse. But that aside, what annoys me is we do have abuse. We do have abusers. We need to reduce it. We will only reduce it with better awareness and better parenting. But in the meantime, we cannot bring gender into it. This is what's going on with the government and Keir Starmer is outrageous. Because if I was a boy or a man now, I'd think, well, what am I supposed to do? Am I going to be, am I going to be accused every time I help a girl or a woman? Am I going, well, what am I supposed to do? Do I just sit here like aimlessly with my arms folded and not do anything? What is my role? And I it's just dreadful. And I honestly do believe, I don't care what women come back at me, the women started this with the early women's lib movement by thinking they could be men. I don't want to be a man. I'm a woman. I like being a woman. I want to be treated like a woman. And I don't understand women today that don't want to be like that.
It's underlined by the way that the government operates. This is Jess Phillips, who's sitting there smugly looking important. Jess Phillips' question on funding of violence against women and girls services is meant to be a great story. The Home Affairs Committee will question the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence against Women and Girls. There isn't a safeguarding against safeguarding against. There isn't a Minister for Safeguarding and Violence against men and boys. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not
quite right.
It should be safeguarding against abuse. There shouldn't be one gender or another. Here's another one. There's Parliamentary Under Secretary of State for Safeguarding and Violence against Women and Girls. Why isn't it just the Parliamentary Under Secretary of State for Safeguarding against abuse? Why doesn't it say that? Or against, that's it. I mean, why didn't you call it that? So they've actually reinforced the very thing you're saying because they've thought it's so important to focus on women and girls that they don't even have an equivalent minister for men and boys.
But they're not even getting that right, Lembit, because they're not even, they don't even know, they're a bunch of numpties. They don't even understand where to start with violence against women and girls. It's all hot air that's emanating out of their backside. They don't have a clue. They're useless. It's all hot air. Jess Phillips, honestly, she could take a one-way ticket to the moon for all I care. She's awful. She's an awful woman. But I really do feel, I mean, I've got little baby grandboys, and I think, what's it going to be like for them? I mean, they're lovely, kind little kids, and you might be misogynistic. It's dreadful. It's dreadful. I honestly, I abhor it because it's about discrimination, and I don't like discrimination anyway. But it is discriminating about young boys, young teenagers, young men, elderly men, older men, whatever, who have lost their path of what a man. But also, I would say that, with respect, I think dads need to stand up more. Fathers need to stand up more. And there's a lot of dads that just leave everything to the woman. And we need dads. We need dads to be, fathers to be dads, to help their young sons to how to be a boy, how to be a man. What is it? What is it to be masculine? And I've said this with teenagers when I've gone into schools. Do you know what it is to be masculine? No, they say no.
Let's look at an example of something which has just won a lot of awards. Keir Starmer is loving adolescence, a Netflix drama about a boy who I think is accused of murder. And there's all kinds of issues I've got with the production, which is allegedly based on some reality. Let's not go down that path. But then, and won all these awards. Everyone's in the mainstream, it's saying how great it is. It is adolescence wins big. And they're all saying, oh, this is a great example of toxic masculinity. The phrase being used again and again and again, day after day after day. Now, I am concerned about that because there's no equivalent in the other direction. You get films like Misery, where a woman contains a a man who's basically had an accident and won't let him go. But by and large, this has been pushed around by the Labour Party, by lots of other politicians, as an example of toxic masculinity. And I loathe that because it reinforces exactly the stereotype. It discriminates. It makes abuse a sexually discriminating policy when it should be about mindset, not gender.
It is mindset, not gender. I refuse to watch it. I thought that award was despicable. I will not watch it. I read what it was about. I was like, I'm not watching it. I just completely, I don't go down that route whatsoever. It's dreadful. And this is a prime minister who goes on about hate speech, and that's exactly what's happening. You know, and that sort of thing, like adolescence. People that have watched it, and that it like drip, drip, drip. It sort of soaks into your psychology, if you like, and then you come out. Oh yes, I agree with that. I won't watch that. I will not watch stuff like that. I refuse to watch it because I knew from the start it was discriminatory and it's completely unbalanced. It's designed to be. They might argue, oh well, it's not meant to be. It's meant to be drama, but no, it's been endlessly promoted as some great political statement. And of course, they're all, in my view, the lightweight. I'd love to win awards for unprecedented, don't get me wrong, but I'd like to not do it on the basis of tokenism, but you never know. Maybe something we produce will either be a parody, or it could be a satire, or it could even be some shocking drama. People go, oh yeah, that was really brave, and we win awards. I don't know. But what worries me about this is the fact that it reinforces exactly the stereotypes and paradigms that you've just been saying. And then you've got the terminology as well. Can we just get that biohazard up one, please? There's this thing that we came across, and yeah, there it is. Toxic masculinity, biohazard. Oh,
I mean, it's just awful. It makes it sound like men are some kind of a poison.
Oh, that is awful. That is, please take it down. I think that's absolutely hideous. Honestly, it's awful. And we need to, Lembit, we talked about it and we need to do it. We need to, because everyone I have spoken to, without exception, goes on about this is absolutely awful about these misogyny classes. And we need to do a campaign. We need to do a petition on it, because it needs to be raised in Westminster that this is outrageous. You cannot go. It's a hate speech against men and boys, and it's completely distorted. It's out of order. But also, though, we need dads to stand up more. Men and fathers are so important in the upbringing of a child. Yeah,
but it's difficult because if you're an abuse victim as a man, you made to sound like, first of all, that it doesn't happen. Government seems unaware of this. I do not believe for a moment that there isn't a single member of parliament who's male without suffering abuse. There must be at least one male victim of abuse in parliament. But of course, if they speak up, they'll be shouted down. Oh no, well, you must be a weakling. You must be a wimp. You're stronger than her. Why would you let her do that? All the rubbish you hear. I used to have an awful lot of male abuse victims coming to my surgery when I was an MP because they knew I was sympathetic. They knew each other. They encouraged their colleagues their friends to come to see me. And the stories were horrendous. And as you say, it's not about strength, because a man could often snap their abuser in half. But it's not about that. And often I think that the abusers, whether male or female, is incredibly strong because the abuser is broken in some way. They're reliving some kind of a trauma through their violence. And it doesn't have to be physical. It can be financial, coercion, all kinds of things. And I think, Marilyn, what we should be doing, I'm talking and involving this, I'm talking with you now, is we should take a stand here on Unprecedented, because there isn't a single station anywhere in the world that I know of that challenges the sexual discrimination of abuse.
It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And I think Unprecedented needs to do a campaign, a petition on this, because it has to happen. You can't you can't go on. You can't be allowed to happen. I mean, Keir Starmer needs to be absolutely exposed on this. Jess Phillips is a disgrace. You know, it is absolutely appalling. I would love to look at the men that are sat, all those people sat in Westminster, how many of them are going through this? And it is absolutely awful. I'm so looking forward to talking to Mark Brooks from Mankind, because he told me the other day, the statistics are, there's very little difference Very little difference. But the thing is, what annoys me is that, I mean, the police are utterly useless on this, even dealing with women and domestic abuse. But I've known men that have gone to the police station and said, you know, this is what's happening. And the police officers have laughed at them and said, oh, you let a woman hit you. What sort of man are you? And that is in like 2025, that was still going on. There's a massive amount of training that needs to happen with the police about dealing with this and how they should respond to men coming forward.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. That's Mark Brooks, OBE, on the picture there. He runs Mankind, a charity which does take these things seriously, that does challenge the sexual discrimination, does challenge the stereotyping. Oh, that when you say abuser, it must be a woman. When you say abuser, it must be a man. When you say abused, it must be a woman. Mankind is brilliant, and I've had the honor of interviewing him myself, because he says it's not about men being abusers and women being abused. It's abusers and abused.
And he has got an OBE for his work in this field, and I'm so looking forward to interviewing him.
Yeah, it's going to be a great interview. Well, if you're watching it in the archive, you'll be able to find it now as well. Just remember the timings are just if you're watching it live. Otherwise, go to Unprecedented TV, like and subscribe, and you'll find that interview. He's not the only person who's fighting back. We came across this. Toxic masculinity is toxic terminology, and that's written by John Barry. Really interesting piece.
Yeah.
And there are enlightened people, and I think we should get together and we should start running a campaign which doesn't discriminate against female victims. It discriminates against those total idiots who think that this is gender-based. It's not gender-based, it's mindset-based. And I think that we could probably help hundreds of thousands of people in Britain alone if we actually manage to dissolve this horrendous sexual discrimination against male victims. And I imagine that's probably true of the LGBT community as well.
I honestly think, Lembit, by taking the gender out of it, I think it would take a big heavy weight off a lot of people's shoulders and think, phew, I can come forward. It's not just this. People aren't, you know, I am being abused domestically. I'm being abused. I mean, and to say take the gender out of it, I think would literally liberate a lot of people to come forward. It's important, really important that we do a petition and campaign and shame Keir Starmer and Jess Phillips. Truly, we have to do that for the sake of boys and men and anyone.
Of course, if you're watching this,
gender-based, it's a broken mindset.
If you're watching Broken Mindset, that's exactly it. If you're watching this in the archive, they may be gone already, of course. Maybe thanks to a campaign that we run here. That's a great thing. This is like a time capsule to see how effective they can be to help hundreds of thousands of people who are being ignored who experience abuse. Marilyn, thanks so much for being with us. That's Marilyn Hawes, the Chief Executive Officer of Freedom from Abuse. If you've experienced this, contact Mankind or Freedom from Abuse. They're great charities who do great work. I don't care what your gender is or indeed your sexual orientation. I care about whether you're an abuser or whether you've been abused. And a lot of people have been one or the other. My mission, and working with Marilyn Hawes, I think I can achieve this, is to destigmatize for men the idea that just because you're male, you shouldn't be abused. That only works if you think that might is right. Maybe some countries think that, but I don't. And let me pay credit to some of the male abused victims that I know, because they could have smashed their abuser into pieces, but instead they endured it, often for the sake of children. I think Marilyn's right. We need to take a stand because no one in the mainstream media is doing this. And I don't know of any other station either. We will take this on. There is hope. And to quote what Donald Trump said in a different context, help is on its way. Please join us as you see our campaign developing and stand up to be counted. You do not deserve to be abused, whatever your gender, your orientation, your age, your size, or the nature of the abuse. We're going to do something about this. Thanks to Marilyn. Thanks to the team. Thanks for watching, and call out abuse regardless of gender. It's time to end abuse. Full stop. I'm Lembit Öpik. This is Lembit Öpik Live. Please like and subscribe to Unprecedented TV. And if this is a subject that matters to you, then I can tell you now, this is the right time for you to get involved in what we're doing. And just one last thing. I don't discuss these things with any pleasure or joy. I discuss them because they have to be discussed. That's the nature of free speech. Have a good day.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.